All right, now that you know what type of founder you are, you want to start to think about the types of founder types that you're not, and think about what you're going to do to fill those gaps. So if you're an idea person that struggles to execute, then you may need a co-founder who's a COO. If you're a technical founder that's not great at sales and storytelling and public speaking, then you may need to find a CEO partner who can handle that side of the business. If you're an execution co-founder like me, then one, you do need a technical person, so that's super clear. But if you're also an idea person, you can probably play both of those roles. So if you're in that third bucket, then you may only need one real skill set gap to fill. And it would be ideal if that person could also be savvy and involved on the business side to help you think through things, maybe even slow you down a little bit so that your progress doesn't end up being a problem for you. Not to roadblock, not to get in the way, but just to be a sounding board to bounce things off of so you can think about them and the different pitfalls or the different things could go wrong or what's worked really well for other companies in that space in the past, and just really have that person to play devil's advocate and help you think through things as you're just ferociously barreling forward into the unknown. So you're going to either need to get somebody to build your app who is, if you're one of the two business founders, the most ideal situation from the get-go is to have a mixed founding team. So you'll hear this from Y Combinator, investors, everybody else. You really want to have at least two founders. That can be a little bit challenging when you're sort of, especially like me, in founder bucket number 3, and you think you can do everything yourself and you just want to get it done. There is, to an extent, yes, you can hire people. And so I'll tell you a little bit what happened to me. I had reached out to a couple people I had worked with previously in my corporate life who were engineers and asked if they could build the app that I was building. Now, I had already started working on a prototype with another friend, so I had kind of the prototype going. And they said they could build the app. We had some requirements calls, and then I was having a hard time getting kind of any progress or updates or what's going on. And then they started telling me that they were talking to some consulting firms, some other teams, some offshore resources. And sort of lo and behold, they ended up farming the project out to a development team in India. Ding, ding, ding. This is a red flag for all you early stage founders on something to be very, very careful about. Yes, you can get an app built in India for a few $1,000s probably. It is such a fraction of the price. However, you get what you pay for is a very real expression. And so I went back to work after being on maternity leave for about 4 months to wait for the app to be built. That's the timeline I was given. Then I was told that the application was done, and I quit my job and went all in to try to start selling it, and found out that nothing was working. Nothing was done. I thought we were going to launch in March, April of 2023 with 14 different childcare categories. And in March of 2023, not a single childcare category was built to completion. There were errors on every single page. And, you know, these same engineers I had called said they were going to manage and oversee the whole project. So I didn't even really get involved with what was going on in the day-to-day there because I thought I had these trusted partners who were managing it. But at the end of the day, they weren't, and they thought they were, but they really weren't making progress. And I think one of the biggest obvious things now was that the application was being built in a stack that the engineers weren't familiar with, that I had hired, kind of, right? So what a stack is that basically means you have to choose what you're going to build your application in. So there's different ways you can host it and then different systems you can build it in. And so that's your stack. Then also there's different programming languages. So instead of having a team build it in a programming language that they were familiar with so they could check and help and oversee the work, It was being built in a language that they had no idea about. So they were very blind as to what was really going on, what was causing bugs, how complete it really was, and all of that. So you want to be very mindful that if you're going to do this early on, and if you haven't built any technology yet, if you're not a tech founder, you really want to try to find one. Now, there are some caveats to that, and I'm going to cover that next. But you really want to make sure that you have a leader steering that ship. That doesn't mean that you can't use any offshore resources. You certainly could use some to kind of fill gaps and use some of them for their labor to execute on tasks. But you need someone who is architecting it and leading it and reviewing the code and helping code and setting it up in a way that you can launch, that you can scale, that you can make changes and add things easily. You're going to make a million different changes in your first couple of years. And so you don't want to do that and have it be, a major effort to make a simple design change or to add a feature or a category of something to your website, right? You want to think about, what does the long-term vision look like? And then how do we get there? How do we get to step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? How do we get to our MVP? If you're not familiar with that term, it's minimum viable product. That's essentially sort of the V1 that you're going to launch for a pilot, a beta, something like that. So how do you get there, but in a way that enables you to keep going to get to the long-term state? So that's what you have to be really careful about. And if you hire a bunch of US-based engineers or US contractors, you're going to burn through so much cash so fast. So ideally, you want to find a technical co-founder who can build the application, maybe use an offshore resource or two underneath that person to help execute and do certain tasks, but they are the captain steering that ship. They are deciding the stack, they are reviewing the code, they are responsible for the deadlines and deliverables that you all agree upon. And that is absolutely critical if you're going to start building a tech-based company.